Hello, Epic Gamers! Today we will be casting another bunch of games from the tourney second season of the year 2024. And today we'll be casting the competitive division, Group B. I have here 3 matches, so let's get right into the first one. Kipo versus Jordy. Kipo spawns north as the common folk, and Jordy down south, playing as the KSR. Jordy going for a relatively meta deck, opting out for the Wolf Boar combo, which has seen a bit of success in the current patch. And Kipo choosing to go for a triple tier 1 combo, Squizzard and Crows. Also opting for the same tier 3 combo. No player choosing to go for the Scavenger unit. Both players going up to 8 farms. Kipo going for lizards, while Jordy opting out for some squirrels instead. Well, it's his only tier 1 choice, right? Kipo might be thinking of trying to walk in through this back door to try to snipe some pigs, but he would have to walk through this water, so he might just be going for a standard Squizzard comp instead. Meanwhile, Jordy taking up the 2 cams. And Kipo is going to take this sneaky campfire. So Kipo's ahead right now on the economy, which will give him the advantage. In the meantime, Jordy does have the army tempo advantage and attack advantage. He might be taking a campfire of his own soon. And Kipo is expanding. Oh, and Kipo, noticing the move out of the army, goes back into the back door and snipes 3 pigs. Give him a huge economy advantage. Jordy might really want to push out and try to, well, get some value of his own. Buying a mill to prevent a base race. And now facing off against the Squizzard comp. The camps absolutely tearing through Kipo's army. And Kipo loses all of his units, unfortunately fighting outside of the range of his pigs, which allowed Jordy to leverage his tech advantage to get some value, sniping some warrants. Unfortunately now on the retreat, as Kipo's lizards got some free pickings of the retreating army. In the end, it looks like Kipo did get more value from that attack. He killed more units and killed warrants, but he's still 3 farms behind and lost to the mill. Jordy taking up even into more camps. That seemed to work out well before. Unfortunately, moving out against the huge Squizzard comp, Jordy's going to get completely mopped up. And this is probably GG. Kipo takes game 1. Kipo on a match point right now. Will we see game 3 or will it end right here, right now? Jordy going for a double tier 1 himself, opting for the Toad to counter Kipo's lizards. keeping the rest of the units the same. Jordy spawning in the north, and Kipo in the south this time. Both players relatively close to one another. Kipo's expansions are both on the low ground, which is a bit unfortunate for him. Seems like this will be a one base game. Kipo going into lizards again, while Jordy into squirrels. And Kipo choosing to take up faster this time. And Jordy spots the lizards and he buys some of his toads. Toads were buffed in this patch. They have plus 1 HP. I think they have 8 HP right now, but I'm not sure. They are certainly better at tanking. Jordy is going to try for a push, noticing Kipo's investment into the tier 2. This will allow him to take one pig. And he takes a nice trade. Unfortunately, he doesn't see the cam because it's invisible, and the cam will allow Kipo to clean up the army and push Jordy back. Both players floating a lot of minerals. Jordy opting to tech into tier 2 himself. Kipo readying a micro lizard flank on the side. Both players simply building up their armed forces. And Kipo is going to try for a move out. Or maybe not. Instead buys a safe mill in the back, and Jordy buys a safety mill. Either a ninja or an anti-base race base. Both would work. And both players expanding now. Kipo going into double farms, but he has a really nice concave here, if he manages to macro it well enough. Unfortunately, Jordy's toads completely blast his squirrel forces, but in the meantime his scams and lizards manage to clean up Jordy's lizards. And in the end, it becomes a favorable trade for Kipo. This will allow his economic advantage to persist, and will give him a huge advantage into the late game. Kipo has not scouted the ninja base. Once again, forming his concave of units. Kipo 1 farm ahead right now. 0 farms ahead actually. But his farms are farming for a bit, so he does have more food right now, which is translated into a larger army. Taking into even more camps right now. Scouts the secret base and snipes it. This will prompt Jordy into attacking while the lizards are far away, but the lizards' fast speed should allow them to come back home quick. Unfortunately, that was almost a bit of a misrally from Kipo, but in the end it works out, and Kipo manages to clean up Jordy's army once again, getting an advantageous trade, and now officially ahead in economy. Kipo might be trying to finish Jordy off right now, using this subtle high ground to put subtle pressure on the expansion. And Jordy loses the battle, expansion, game, and match. Congratulations to Kipo on his victory, and let's move on to the next match. Melvinfro versus Jordy. Whoops. This is also the competitive division in Group BBB. Jordy going for the same deck as he had before, except moles now instead of toads. Knowing Melvinfro would probably not go into lizards like Kipo did. Jordy once again in green KSR, spawning in the south, and Melvinfro opting for his main color, playing as the yellow civilized in the north. Melvinfro going for his favorite Badger Owl combo, and Pigeon Squirrel for his tier 1. With good choices for tier 2 in the Falcon and the Skunk, a good late game choice, and a good anti-tier 1 choice. Melvinfro watching out for some moles, and Jordy decides to place one down anyway. This will pressure both of the top northern farms. Melvinfro will have to sell. Ooh, that was a bit of an unfortunate mismicro. Jordy could have totally gotten the second farm. Unfortunately, chickens out and walks backwards. At least forces a sell 2 times, but loses 50 food worth of value, 2 moles and 10 coins of value on the Warren, which allows Melvinfro to have an extra one right now. Jordy spawns back, teleports back and buys a farm, which means the whole time he wasn't even ahead on economy, so this was a completely failed rush. Melvinfro deciding to use his tempo advantage to go into double tier 2, meanwhile Jordy goes into tier 2 himself. And Jordy, knowing he is behind, will try to use... Well, will try to get back into the game by buying a sneaky tier 3. Unfortunately, Melvinfro, a good player, manages to scout his enemy's base and sees that the board is building. How will he respond himself? He seems to be going for a push, buying tier 1, getting ready for a timing attack. Unfortunately for Jordy, the position was a little sneaky, yes, but when it gets scouted, it's really exposed. And when he will try to defend it, it will, well, he will not have any defensive advantage from his picks. Jordy also buying a nice sneak expansion. He might really want to give up this space. Unfortunately, going for a scouting round right when Melvinfro hits. And having no defensive advantage, Melvinfro will be easily able to snipe down the Warren. Jordy is first to sold off, and Melvinfro, knowing he does have the tempo advantage, pulls back a bit, heals up, and prods a little bit more. And this is going to be a bit of a steamroll, because Jordy has no more army. And congrats to Melvinfro on taking the first game. Melvinfro now on his match point. Let's go into game 2. Melvinfro spawning in the north, as the civilized Jordy once again, in the green KSR, spawns down south. Both players keeping their decks, Jordy just swapping out moles for his favorite toads for some reason. He probably values toads more than moles. I'm not sure I agree with that, but it's not like a super bad choice. Toads are still good against squirrels, and they are also good against pigeons, because they have a lot of alpha damage. And when they damage a lot of tier 1, the pigeons will waste a lot of their healing on healing squirrels instead of the important units. Now that I'm looking at it, Melvinfro also swapped something. Falcons for scavengers, willing to try out the new unit, and Jordy also swapped out his boar for some camps. Or falcons for some camps. Falcons for boar, I mean. Ooh. Jordy tried to double Warren Rush, but Melvinfro did manage to respond to it with his own Warren. Both players now on 8 farms. Melvinfro on 2 Warrens. Getting a little bit of a tempo lead, but nothing which would win him the game. Jordy should be able to defend with what he has, going into some toads of himself. And Melvinfro taking up into some scavengers. Jordy scouts and goes into his own tier 2 in the form of skunks. Skunks are pretty good against scavengers because scavengers don't have that much HP, and they have the same range as squirrels, which means they tend to bunch up in the same place, which means when skunks are hitting the scavengers or squirrels, they will also be damaging a lot of other units, both of the unit types. Melvinfro doubling down on the scavengers, pushing them out of his territory to try to profit off of their eco generation, and Jordy diversifies into some chameleons while expanding himself. Scavengers generate 1 food every 4 seconds, which means that 4 of them count as a single farm, which means with these 4 scavengers, both players will be even on economy. Jordy notices how exposed the units are and goes for a flanking maneuver. Unfortunately for him, his units mispathed and split into 2 parts, which is like super unfortunate for him. This allows Melvinfro to notice what he's doing, call up the rest of his army, and Jordy unfortunately gets completely shredded. Even with the really nice skunk up north doing things, he still dies. This gives Melvinfro so much momentum, he will just be able to steamroll through Jordy's defenses, snipe the expansion, and take the win for himself. Really unfortunate for Jordy. It was really clever trying to snipe those skunks. Unfortunately, did not predict the unit pathfinding correctly and loses the game because of it. Most likely loses the game because of it. Too behind on eco, too behind on army. Melvinfro trying to close out the game, pushing into Jordy's base while Jordy was on a scouting pattern, taking a really good battle, really good fight, and now just proceeds to clean up Jordy's base and Jordy surrenders. Nice place from Melvinfro, congrats on the win. Really unfortunate place from Jordy. He really had a chance, but yeah, didn't really. It was just an unfortunate rally. Anyway, let's get into the third game. Third match of this tourney. Once again, competitive division Group B, Melvinfro versus ThisGuy. Melvinfro in his favorite yellow, spawning in the west. And ThisGuy spawning in the east in blue, Bella feeds blue. I always forget what this faction is called. The capitalists, the bourgeoisie, the landowners. Melvinfro, opting for the same deck which he used against Jordy. And this guy, opting for a similar deck, also going for the badger, the skunk, the squirrel, the pigeon, but choosing to go for some moles, which he might be rushing now with, and scavengers. This guy, unfortunately, walking away from his PC and making a sandwich, proceeds to waste almost a 60 food worth of time on his farm buildings. Goes for a nice pressure, forces the sell-off on the Warren. Probably. Ooh. I think one mole can destroy one Warren when there are 3 picks around, but I'm not completely sure. I would have totally gone for it. This guy opts to go for a tier 2. Melvinfro mirrors with his own tier 2. Melvinfro does some fancy selling off to get ahead on tempo, except it didn't help him at all, because he only revealed the same warrants. Melvinfro might be going for a fast tier 3 instead, buys another tier 1. And this guy builds his stack on the front lines, leaving his warrants completely exposed in case he would want to retreat or lost a fight. I always disagree with forward warrants, even when you're rushing. Melvinfro will try to push his advantage. Unfortunately, attacks with a single unit, which will leave it a bit damaged for the upcoming fight. Melvinfro realizes that he's a bit outmatched and pulls back, knowing it would be hard to push into the high ground. The pigeon nicely healing up this guy's units, and looks like both players are gearing up for a fight. Nice pre-gas for Melvinfro, this will damage all of this guy's units. And this guy is trying to pick off a few straggling squirrels. Always prodding with his skunks. Will it pay off, or will he lose his 60 food unit? Now he manages to save the scout, but loses 3 tier 1 in exchange. Both players on a skunk off, but this guy's pigeons really saving him. Melvinfro goes into his pigeons himself. Unfortunately, a few of the pigeons are completely exposed and get sniped down. This guy bleeding a little bit of value, but both players still relatively evenly matched. Ooh, losing the scav, but getting some nice kills on the squirrels. Unfortunately, all of this guy's tier 1 is kinda gone, which allows the Melvinfro's falcons to attack unimpeded. Sniping down the tier 2 Warren is already huge value, and now sniping down another one Warren. And Melvinfro gets a huge amount of value, destroying this guy's production, giving him the tempo advantage, and also sniping down a lot of his units, meaning he's safe from counterattack. This is why forward warrants are bad. They're completely exposed, and this guy pays the price with losing the first game in the match. Now let's get into game 2. Melvinfro versus this guy. Game 2. Melvinfro spawning on the south side of the map in civilized yellow. This guy opting out for a different commander, coming in in a common folk red, spawning in the north. A really sparse on the mills map, but both players do have a comfortable, relatively comfortable expansion. This guy opting out for some snakes instead of scavengers, knowing Melvinfro is fond of using well, just choosing a different tier 2 because he thinks it will be better. I'm not sure if snakes are a good counter against pigeons. Pigeons are really good against snakes, but I think snakes are also good to have against pigeons maybe? Because they deal damage over time, which means if you put one tag on a unit, the pigeons will waste a lot of healing on that one unit because its health will always tick down or something. In longer fights, snakes definitely can still overpower pigeons, so it's not really a bad idea against if you just yeah. Both players going into mirroring each other's setups. One tier 1, one tier 2. Melvinfro going for his falcons. And this guy going into some camps. Oh! This guy selling off his tier 1, doubling up on his skunks. And Melvinfro going into some camps. Meanwhile, Melvinfro goes into his skunks to try to counter this guy's tier 1 blob. Luckily for this guy, camps do counter, are pretty strong against the skunk's gas, but unfortunately for this guy, if all of his squirrels die, then nothing will be able to oppose Melvinfro's falcons. Ooh! Melvinfro tries to expand, but this guy does the classic cam next to the mill trick and takes a 360 food off of Melvinfro. This guy might literally assume that the cam got rallied back. He doesn't, and gets a 360 food, so in the end it was an even trade. This guy uses the knowledge that Melvinfro is expanding and goes into a badger. Every second that Melvinfro does not scout this will give this guy a huge advantage. Melvinfro scouts it right when it finishes, which means this guy is 45 seconds ahead. Oh, 45. Still 45 seconds because now 45 seconds away from badger finishing building. Which is just enough time for Melvinfro to get at least one falcon from each of these warrens. And by the time the badger walks all the way to Melvinfro's base, he should have filled up on all of his falcons. Really clever play from Melvinfro, not ecoing up, not doing anything, just preparing a counter against the badger. This guy, floating a lot of food, he should probably be buying more pigeons at least. And maybe he's saving up his money for a mole rush. Instead of that, he goes into some fancy cam stuff for no reason. Literally throws away 240 coins for no reason. Instead of waiting for the power spike from his badger. A huge misplay from this guy. Now he has to stay at home and expand. Melvinfro knows he has the advantage because freaking obviously. This guy once again going like solo with his badger, almost losing the commander. Poking, risking it all for no reason, throwing away his chance of victory without his army support. Melvinfro smells blood in the water, and he's going for a push. This guy trying to dance with his badger, trying to ward off Melvinfro's army, like to save his expansion. Maybe he should sell the farm off or something. Melvinfro consolidates a bit and goes for another push. The road is really helping this guy. It helps him outrun all of these falcons with his badger. Road is actually saving this guy right now. Melvinfro realizes it's a bit too risky to push, and instead tries to eco up. This guy mirrors with his own farms, and by mirrors I mean, well, now he mirrors, both players on 3 farms. Melvinfro tries for a push again. This guy positioning his army in a hopefully advantageous way, trying to go for a camp flank, but unfortunately almost losing the badger. Rallying all, now the camp flank will happen. Unfortunately the badger gets caught by the falcons, and even though the camp flank did a really good job cleaning up the ground army, there are still too many falcons in the air, and this guy has absolutely no anti-air units, which forces him to quit the game and give the win to Melvinfro. Congrats on Melvinfro on his epic victory royale, and congrats to Jordy on almost pulling off a win with his epic camp flank. He could have had way more camps if he didn't throw those far away in the huge misplay when his badger came out. Anyway, that's it for today and for today's casts. Evil out.